Odysseus secured the fall of Troy through a deceptive piece of hollow carpentry. As the strategist behind the Trojan horse, he ended a decade of open warfare with a single night of clever infiltration. That victory was supposed to be his final act of the war. Instead, a straightforward voyage back across the Aegean Sea devolved into a 10-year nightmare of storms and monsters. Beyond the combat and the creatures, the voyage functions as a psychological gauntlet. The gods aren't just trying to kill Odysseus, they are testing his resolve. His focus remains fixed on the home he left 20 years ago, his wife Penelope, and the son he barely knows, Telemachus. To reach them, Odysseus must navigate a series of trials designed to erode his identity. The gods provide every possible reason to give up, stay behind, or simply stop trying. Odysseus's sharp intellect frequently clashes with his deeply human flaws. Early in the voyage, he leads a successful raid on the Cicones, but his crew's greed overrides his orders. They stay to feast, giving the survivors time to regroup and launch a counter-assault that decimates the Greek ranks. He displays that same tactical brilliance with the Cyclops Polyphemus. Trapped in a cave, Odysseus blinds the giant and identifies himself only as nobody. When Polyphemus screams for help, the other giants hear that nobody is hurting him, and they ignore the cries. The escape was perfect until Odysseus's ego took over. As his ship pulled away, he shouted his true name back to the shore, giving Polyphemus the information needed to call down a curse from his father, Poseidon. Poseidon's wrath makes the ocean a physical minefield, but the journey soon introduces a more subtle danger, the possibility of forgetting his mission. The Lotus-Eaters offer a plant that makes men lose their desire for home. The Sirens sing a song that draws ships toward lethal reefs. These obstacles weaponize comfort, offering a reprieve from the exhaustion of the journey. The goddesses Circe and Calypso offer even more enticing escapes. They provide safety from the sea and the promise of immortality, a way to step out of time and avoid any further pain. Odysseus chooses the pain. His strength isn't found in a lack of desire, but in his decision to accept the limitations and suffering of a mortal life if it means returning to Ithaca. The final phase of the sea journey shifts into a sequence of impossible leadership choices. Logic and skill can still guide the ship, but they no longer guarantee the safety of the crew. This diagram shows the narrow strait Odysseus must navigate. To the left is the monster Scylla, to the right, the whirlpool Charybdis. It's a mathematical horror. Sailing toward Scylla sacrifices a specific number of men, while the whirlpool risks the destruction of the entire vessel. The breaking point occurs on the island of Thrinacia. Driven by hunger and desperation, the crew ignores Odysseus's warnings and slaughters the sacred cattle belonging to the sun god. The consequences are swift. Zeus destroys the ship with a single bolt of lightning, drowning the crew and leaving Odysseus as the sole survivor, drifting alone. Odysseus pays for his survival with total isolation. His intellect was enough to save himself, but it could not protect his men from their own fatal impulses. Washing up on Ithaca after 20 years doesn't signal the end of the conflict. The war has simply changed locations. While Odysseus fought at sea, Penelope defended the palace from an internal invasion. Dozens of suitors have moved in, consuming their food and pressuring her to declare her husband dead and marry one of them. She utilizes her own strategic mind to buy time. She promises to marry only when she finishes weaving a burial shroud, working by day and unraveling it by night for 3 years. Odysseus enters his own home disguised as a beggar, watching the suitor's arrogance. Penelope eventually initiates the end of the standoff by announcing a contest. Whoever can string Odysseus's massive hunting bow will win her hand. The suitors all fail, but when the beggar takes the weapon, he strings it with ease and fires an arrow through the targets. He reveals his identity, and with his son Telemachus, clears the hall by force. This reclamation of the throne proves that both the king and the queen survived their own 20-year wars of endurance. The final challenge isn't a physical battle. It is a psychological test of identity staged by Penelope to ensure the man standing before her isn't an imposter. She tests him by ordering the servants to move their marriage bed into the hallway. It sounds like a simple request, but it is a trap. Odysseus reacts with immediate anger. As this diagram shows, he knows the bed cannot be moved. He built the entire palace around a living olive tree, carving one of the bedposts directly into its massive rooted trunk. That immovable foundation acts as the core metaphor for their relationship. Their bond remained intact because it was rooted in a shared history and an intellectual connection that no distance could break. Odysseus endures as a hero because his success isn't built on divine invincibility. He is often reckless and proud, yet he continues moving forward after every catastrophic failure. The Odyssey remains relevant 3,000 years later because of its central observation. The trials of life will change you, but maintaining a grip on your purpose is the only way to survive the journey.